Dude and Grim Show presents Scratch a Track,
the podcast where we debate which track to scratch off some of the most known and unknown albums of all time.
We live in an era of singles.
This is an album.
People no longer listen to an album for the work it truly is.
It kind of defines a band.
It's just not something that people relate to nowadays.
We've all gotten the dreaded.
It started out as a game.
Which track on the album would you scratch out if you had to? Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch a Track podcast presented by the Dude and Grim Show. I'm the Dude, aka TD.
I am Grim. No AKAs there. And today we are talking about the album Lonerism by Tame Impala, their second full-length album release.
Yes, their sophomore release.
And that's, 2012, I believe, that was released in?
Believe?
Yep.
Yes.
5th of October,
correct.
2012.
Right.
And, I mean, as anyone who's listened to them, I guess from starting with Inner Speaker or even like, you know, the EP before that, they really kind of had this heavy psychedelic rock sound. And this album started, I think many people would argue, a departure that led to kind of a different space that they exist in today in terms of how their music or his music is. I mean, it's really Kevin Parker, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think he said, you know, with this album, he wanted to go in more of a pop direction, and I think he also said like he had kind of like exhausted himself as far as like with the guitar sounds and whatnot, and he just wanted to try new instruments and some synths, which are very prevalent on this album, I would say.
Yeah, and I will say, even when the guitar is featured, with the exception of Elephant, which is pretty much straight ahead rock. For the most part, the guitars, they still have a very different sounds. They kind of like wash, you know, like, and I think he said that, and some of what I read, he said that the guitars just kind of had these direct melodies and really came at you in Inner Speaker. But with this one, he kind of wanted it to sound more like it like washed over you like a series of waves. And I think with playing with the filters and a lot of those big sweeps, it really has that effect.
Yeah.
And one thing he mentioned,
many songs on this album this album it's very full.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's so many layers and a lot of the effects and stuff, but it's cool because in some of the songs, and we'll talk about this, he'll at times he'll like drop everything out too. Mm-hmm. And then everything comes back in. It's pretty cool effect.
Well, one thing I didn't realize until reading a little more in depth about it was that he said he was heavily inspired by Todd Rundgren's 1973 album, A Wizard, A True Star. And wow. I want to listen to this album. I haven't just due to time constraints, but I do want to listen to this album because, I mean, it would just be interesting to hear. I always like if there's an album that you like and that you're interested in, especially something like this that was, you know, marked sort of a, I don't want to say departure, but like it marked a change in somebody's sound.
Yeah.
I'm always interested to listen to what prompted that, if the artist is, you know, willing to talk about it. Because I mean, I know we talked at one of our favorites. We were just talking about it, Kid A. And you hear that, you know, Johnny Greenwood, I believe, was heavily inspired by Bitches Brew. And then you listen to Bitches Brew and hear some of the crazy, like, horn instrumentation in the album. And it's not like it sounds like Bitches Brew, but you can hear the influence. And that's what I'd really like to listen to that Rundgren album, just to hear that influence in this.
Yeah, and that probably, it's interesting for you to say that because it probably carries maybe a little more meaning for someone like you who is more of a musician and into producing. Whereas like when you make the example of Johnny Greenwood and Kid A and Bitches Brew, I mean, obviously there's horns and stuff on Kid A and everything. But there's some chaotic, parts, especially like at the end of like National Anthem or something, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But like I would never initially make that connection, but now that he says it, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see that.
Well,
right?
yeah,
So,
I'll be honest. I didn't make the connection when I heard it. It was just it was like so out there. But then having like dove into Bitches Brew, I mean, heavily for years, and I still listen to it quite often.
so good.
It becomes really evident, once you know the work that they're citing. And so I think that album of Wizard a True Star is going to be on my radar just to check out, because I want to hear it.
Cool. Well, I'll let you check it out, and if you like it, then tell me, and then I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Right. Okay,
it's a
cool,
deal.
Cool.
It's a deal.
Well, so I guess, getting back to this album a little bit, it should be pretty much noted that I think I would compare in a sort of a way Tame Impala to Nine Inch Nails in a sense, where it's like Nine Inch Nails, essentially most of it is Trent Reznor, and Tame Impala from a studio perspective is Kevin Parker.
Yeah, sure. You got that that singular driving force.
Yeah, and he pretty much does. I mean, I think he has, there's a few people that he has worked with, and I think some people will play or put in some parts, but I mean, he pretty much does, I think, everything on the album. And I mean, it says, he writes and records, and plays pretty much all the parts. I did find it interesting, and I know this is one of our favorite producers is David Friedman.
Dude,
he mixed this album, and I think he mixed Inner Speaker as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I feel like you could tell because
I'm curious because Tame Impala wasn't really big before Inner Speaker came out. Like, how did they get him to mix it?
Yeah, I don't know. He never really mentions that or says how he did, but he did, and I think that his touch on it shows through, because I was listening to I listened to both a podcast that Kevin Parker did with Rick Rubin, and then an interview that he has with Zane Lowe, and that guy has good interviews with a lot of musicians, so those are always interesting to listen to. And he did mention that he recorded both those albums, and he liked what Dave Friedman had done on Inner Speaker, and he was like, I wanted him to do it again, so I recorded everything and kind of made like a rough mix, and then I gave it to Dave Friedman to, I think as he put it, to put that Dave Friedman-ish touch on it. And I mean, he does in both cases. They sound great, and they do not as heavy as like his production on like the OK Go album, but it still has that real punches you in the mouth kind of feel.
Yeah. And so, we will be, throughout this podcast and throughout this podcast history, he is one of our favorite producers. So we will be discussing him a lot. And he's done, OK Go's, I forget the name of the album. It's
Blue Color of the Sky.
Blue Color. Yeah. Something like that. He has done every Flaming Lips album, I think, from the beginning of time.
Oh, dude. Tapes and Tapes, Walk It Off.
Tapes and Tapes, right?
That's a good one.
Yeah. So, and I'm not sure if he's done, I think he did the Currents. I don't know if he's done Tame Impala's most recent one, but
I don't know.
I don't know. So I'll have to look that up for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is it's a good album. Definitely like one of my favorites. And I just listening to there was a period of time I got into Inner Speaker and Lonerism at the same time. And so there was a good few month period where all I was listening to was Tame Impala. And I just love this album a ton. It's just a good album to put on.
My experience was a little different because for the shout outs, right, I was going to record this local band, and they were into a lot of this like older sounding music, and the bands that they introduced me to were Tame Impala and the Black Angels. And both of them had, like, especially because this was at this time, Inner Speaker was the only thing that was out. So Nolan, I can't remember your last name. Shout out to you because you got me like seriously hooked on it. And I listened to it so much, and I absolutely love that album. But I think, like probably a lot of fans, I'm guilty of, when this album came out, I thought it was going to be Inner Speaker Part 2. And I thought this was just going to be a psychedelic rock band, and they were going to have a lot of these heavy, fuzzed out like songs, which I loved. And this album didn't have that. And so initially, I mean, I liked the album, but I wasn't quite as smitten with it as say Inner Speaker. But I think over time, it was one of those ones that I grew to appreciate, like seeing the change and hearing, you know, the development of an artist, really. Cause that's one thing that he Kevin Parker, being he, talks about in both those interviews I referenced earlier, was that, you know, it's some people, you're never going to please everybody, but some people kind of, I think, either like the old stuff and weren't as crazy about the newer stuff. And some people went with it, and other people, you know, almost like there's camps.
Well, yeah, I agree. For me, and I felt like, and maybe I have a different perspective because I kind of listened to them at the same time, but I didn't feel like, I don't feel like the jump from Inner Speaker to Lonerism was as big for me as Lonerism to Currents.
Agreed.
I thought that was a much bigger jump.
I absolutely agree with that. I think that
one took me a while to kind of get into and appreciate.
Oh yeah,
and even still need more time with it.
And even some of their newer stuff, I mean, I like it, but if I'm going to listen to them, like I don't know that that'd be my first choice to put on. And not that it isn't good music. And I really, you know, you got to respect someone that
goes in different directions.
They want to change, because I mean, a lot of the artists that we really like and talk, I mean, Bowie's probably the best example ever of someone who just kept evolving. And so you certainly can't knock him for that. And he's really open about it in a lot of the stuff, a lot of the interviews that he's done, and a lot of the quotes that you can find out there, that he kind of had like a bit of an obsession with pop music and I get it. I mean, a lot of it's catchy, you know?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. In this album, he actually, Inner Speaker came out, and like right when it came out, he started recording this album.
Yeah.
And he talks about how it was really good, because a lot of times people will take time off, or they'll be touring, or they don't have the time, but he thought it was great because the record company also wasn't expecting an album to come out for like 2 years. So he had so much time to really work on it, and there wasn't pressure to get it out quick.
Yeah.
And he kind of recorded it all over. I mean, he you know, at home, I think he recorded a lot of it at his girlfriend's house in Perth, and he recorded some of it in France. And I mean, he was kind of like his own mobile studio, and with technology these days, he could do it, you know?
Well, cause what is it? It says in the article here in the wiki that there's a guitar take in Vienna, or a vocal take on an airplane from Singapore to London. Like that's cool. Yeah. I mean, I still haven't figured out how you could get a really clean vocal take in an airplane, but depending on what you needed to use it for, like you might be able to, you know.
Yeah.
But
it was probably really cool. It was probably one of those deep layers. It's probably buried in there, so a little bit.
And there's some good YouTube videos out there. That's like I don't know, they're real. I think he put them out, but they're real kind of unofficial, and it just shows him kind of what he's doing in the studio. And I mean, it looks kind of a mess. Like there's stuff everywhere, which I get if you're working on something, but it's kind of cool to just see him, you know, really experimenting with no goal in mind and coming out with something that's unique.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's pretty cool that he's, I mean, it also, you know, he's younger, so kind of growing up with social media and stuff like that. or he understands, like he likes putting that stuff out. So if if people are fans of Tame Impala, like you can find a bunch of stuff on YouTube. There's a bunch of interviews out there and everything. He's pretty kind of like open with that types of stuff. I think he even during this pandemic, he played like a live online show and everything. So
I saw this recent Tiny Desk concert that was cool.
That's what it was. Okay,
he's more like a DJ, honestly, but it's still cool.
Yeah.
But one thing I saw that was sweet is it was something for Currents. And it was him alone in his like house or whatever that's overlooking the ocean. And he has a looping machine and he just starts, he plays one thing and then he'll go to the drums and put like a beat to it. And it's kind of neat because you can see how he would build something like this,
Build a song.
Yeah.
Totally. Really is cool. That is cool. All right. Well, he talks about when he was recorded, it was recorded in a bunch of different places, but I think he said that sometimes he would record, he'd start at late at night, he'd record until like 5 a.m. He'd go to sleep, he'd wake up and he'd drink red wine and smoke spliffs. He said it was a period of real discovery.
I can imagine that, but that's a tough schedule to maintain.
Yeah. I would rather drink red wine and smoke spliffs like during the day and go to bed at a reasonable hour.
Yeah, me too. But I've done the whole night owl thing, and I get it. Like when you get into like, especially if you don't have to get up for work or something like that. I understand that where like you get going on a song. And like it is adrenaline or whatever, like anything else, and your mind is just firing on all cylinders, and you want to keep going. So I certainly can understand that, but I don't know if I could do it every day.
Yeah, no, probably not.
But one thing I think that I did want to read about that I thought was interesting is that, and I know we talked about this briefly in a sidebar conversation, was that he had a bunch of the demos for this on like a phone or an iPod or something. And when he was traveling, it fell out of his bag and he lost it.
Yeah. Oh, there was like, I would freak me out, I guess, I don't know how people, I guess if somebody picked it up and started listening to it, I mean, it's like, well, is that the only thing you have on there? Like, I mean, somebody have to really like dig into it to. Well,
he said he listed it as like a different band name or something. Like it wasn't under Tame Impala. So I mean,
okay,
but I guess it eventually got returned to him, which I think is
he got him back. That is pretty cool. Yeah.
But
well, I think the overall concept before we kind of get into the album, the overall concept. I mean, it is called Lonerism, and a lot of it, the themes and stuff are about kind of like isolation and introspection, and he attributed that to a lot of like how we kind of felt when he was on tour. Like he was kind of an introverted person, and then you're on tour and you go to parties and you're meeting all these people, and you just kind of you've never been that type of person to be like social,
I don't want to be here, man,
and fit in. And so he just, it was kind of about, a person who doesn't really feel like they're part of the rest of the world. And dude, it kind of reminds me of like, from American Psycho when Christian Bale's like, they're in the cab. I think Reese Witherspoon's there. And she's like asking him this questions. And of course he's listening to probably Hugh Lewis on his headphones or whatever. And she like asked him a question. He's like, because I want to fit in.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you talk. So one thing I really like the artwork on the album. I think it's simple.
Simple and bold.
And I heard that like some people didn't get it in relation to the title, but to me it makes perfect sense because it's like you're looking through a gate at like all these people hanging out, but you're not there. You're at a distance. You're isolated. You're the loner in that sense. And I think it's a very simple cover, but to me, I think it's great and it sends a pretty cool message. And for a guy who does all this stuff himself, I like the fact that he took the picture.
Yeah,
which I believe he took the picture.
Did he? Okay, maybe I didn't.
I think so.
But he
super fans don't kill us on that one. That's I think so.
Okay, I think it says, but yeah, he I did find it interesting that I never really looked at for some reason, never really looked at the cover. I love the cover of, what do you call it? Inner Speaker. Like it's, that one, I think it's really cool. I just love the whole
yeah. How it
feel
just,
to it and everything.
yeah,
So,
it just kind of keeps going in. It reminds me of the cover for Pink Floyd Ummagumma, right? Where it just like, it's like an image within an image in a mirror, and it just keeps like going. It's that
picture
vein.
of a picture of a picture.
This one does say that he personally took it.
He did.
And I guess like there's a little red splotch in the corner where I think they wrote the name of it on, but it says that was caused because he incorrectly wound the film.
Oh, no way.
It's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. That's cool. Well, is it about time we kind of jump into our scratches here, my friend?
Yeah, I think it's yeah. I think we go into it now.
All right. Well, I got to be above it.
Yeah.
Gotta be above it. Yeah. So that's the first song off the album. It's a real trippy way to start the album, and it fades in too, which is kind of always an interesting way to
but
start
it's like it's like this mantra of his. You know, it's like you can hear yourself repeating it in your head
over and over and
but
over.
I really love the synth, just kind of that wah, 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 wah. I mean, it's cool. And his drum beat, it's a nice kind of driving but repetitive. You know?
Yeah, it is. And the song to me, it really kind of builds up and gets thick. And it's for being the opening track on the album. It kind of sets the tone. For
I would agree. And lyrically,
this is going to be different. Yeah, this is going to be different than what Inner Speaker was for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But and this was one of those things where like I guess I would put it. I mean, like I didn't get it the first time I heard it. Not like I didn't like it, but it was just so different from what I would have expected. Where now I think that's what I really like about it is just that.
Sure.
Just that, you can tell that he didn't have a set of rules in his head as this is how an album starts or that, and that's
I do what I want.
Rock and roll, man.
Yeah. Anyways, so that starts the album. And then we get a little French, and I don't fully know how to say that. Enders. Is that toi?
I believe.
But that's not. But here's the thing. It translates. You want to know what it translates to?
Yeah.
Go to sleep, go to sleep. That's what it translates to. So what I was thinking is that would be a perfect. We could do a songs with the same name there. I feel like.
Go to Sleep by Radiohead and
Radiohead's Go to Sleep and Tame Impala.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. The translated, we'll call it songs with the same name translations.
Exactly.
But I'm into that. Dude, yeah. So actually, let's mark that down. I got the Google Drive up, so I'll go ahead.
Mark it, dude. But yeah, it's so Gotta Be Above It ends, Be Above It, I should say, ends. And it just cuts right to this song. And we get like more just kind of guitar effects, heavy sound. This album I feel like everything has an effect or intense reverb, and it has that. Yeah. I forget what did you call it earlier? Just like
it's these big filter sweeps.
Guitar sound.
These big filter sweeps.
Yeah,
and he does it not just on like instruments, but he'll do it in the whole mix, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, and I got these synthesizers over here, which I could have given an example of, but I mean, fuck, you've listened to the album. You know what that sound is. You know. Side note, I do love how when we go into the Google Drive, I expect it to say "Welcome the Dude and Grim Show," but it says "Welcome, Dude Grim."
Yeah, it's pretty great.
I just like that.
Yeah. But yeah, this song again, like very synth. The synth is very strong. I feel like in this song, again, lots of reverb. To me, it's just trippy. It's really, really psychedelic. And I find sometimes, and maybe I'm not sure if it's, him putting, the effects on it, but the spaces that some of the instruments sound like they're in sometimes are pretty cool. He really mixes it up. It's not like he doesn't just like find one thing and stick with it. He'll really mix. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily him and Friedman or how that's kind of done, but they explore the space in a lot of different ways.
Dude, explore the space. And that one, if I'm not mistaken, that has a little bit of acoustic guitar.
That is actually, I have it marked down a little later. There's an acoustic at the end, and it comes in, and I have that in my notes later. And I really like that part of that song. I want to say. Well,
one thing I do. Okay, so you move on to the next one, right? Apocalypse Dreams, and that one has acoustic piano, and I like his use of just those big chords in it and just holding the chords out over. I think that's I do like that, because despite the fact that everything is more poppy and everything is a lot more synth driven, I like kind of the callback to using the basic acoustic instruments in that realm as well.
It's a good contrast, because everything, so much of it is all synthy and electric guitar and everything, that to put those types of instruments in really it stands out even more.
Sure.
And and this song has tons of layers. And one thing I kind of noticed, like, I think some of his song, him, they, I don't know what's best to say, but I'll just say some of their songs. There's some where I feel like dude, there's like the musicianship, is not as kind of they're not doing like crazy solos or awesome bass lines, or even, some of the drum parts and stuff are amazing. But sometimes it's just
not like Keith Moon though, but it doesn't need to be like, and I think that's where you're going. Exactly. It doesn't need to be. Yeah. It's just, it fits together so well.
Yeah. And with this song, I'm like, I'm never like, wow, there's like a solo or a great riff. It's the parts come together and how everything fits together, and just, building those layers of sound. It's really cool. But then in this song, it's awesome. It's one of those songs where, like, in the middle, he has one of those drop out, just drop everything out.
Yep.
And then it's kind of just like chill for a little bit. And it's very, I guess, I don't know the best way to say it. It's, very, very like bare bones. And then boom, everything comes back in again. And it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. Also, good transitions too. I just stabbed myself with a pen.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
So then Mind Mischief, right?
Let's get into some mischief. We could talk about the controversial music video as well. I don't know how well that would play here in the States, because there's been lawsuits about that type of shit.
I do love the video. I could just the scene of just walking behind the teacher, that could be the video just right there, because that's real nice.
Yeah. So, for those of you who have not seen the video, which isn't a whole lot, because I believe it currently has like 32 million views on YouTube, that video. So, but
it's kind of got like a Hot for Teacher vibe, Van Halen,
yes, Yeah. It's so basically, in short, it is this hot teacher who teaches at an all boys kind of prep school.
I'd actually say amazing. But anyways,
amazing. Yes. And everybody, all the boys and everything, they're kind of looking at her, and she's walking down the hall, everybody's staring and everything. And then she goes out to her car and starts lights up a spliff. And one of the kids comes in the car, and they just start making out and taking each other's clothes off and everything. And then it goes into this kind of cartoon animated sequence where
it's almost like the wall naked. Where the flowers are.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. It's I recommend checking it out.
But one thing I do like,
maybe not at work, but but if you're working from home,
I like about that though is the bits where it goes from real footage into animation, the way just the car is a cartoon, and then the way it comes back is really cool.
When it comes back, it's very, very cool. Very cool.
But
so
I was going to mention,
as far as the song goes,
as far as the song goes, one thing I like about it is typically you think of a song, or at least for me, I mean, it's like you have a chord structure when you make a song, and then maybe you'd make a riff. But this to me is like it's all based on that guitar riff.
Dude, it's an awesome riff, man.
It is. Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's really good. But I always really liked that song for that reason, because it's so much just based around that riff. I mean, when I say riff, it's more like a lead part. It's not like the riff for Iron Man or something, where it's like real low and driving like a metal riff. It's just like a kind of a nice little lead part. And I like how the drums kind of don't have like a consistent just kind of beat. They kind of break up, and there's always those fills in there. And it's I think it's a cool way to make a song,
construct it for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I feel like this is one of those songs about, and he kind of says the words, but about kind of his life is, sort of changing a little bit, and not in life, but in love, but also trying to fit in. He's like, it feels like my life is ready to blow. Like things are going to, really change. Me and my love will take it slow, and I just don't know where the hell I belong.
Something else is gonna blow watching the video.
Yeah, well, pretty much. Yep. So moving on. This is I enjoy the first 4 songs, but for me, this is kind of where the album like really these next I think 3 songs. Actually, I feel like the album really picks up for me in my enjoyment of it. I don't know. I just love Music to Walk Home By, and
okay.
It's I don't know why. There's times, and I know I'm not scratching the first 4 tracks by any means, but there's times where I will actually just put this album on and I'll just start it at this song. I'm not really sure why. Okay. There's something about it that I
very
really
similar
enjoy,
to your LCD sound system experience.
Yes, it kind of is. It is. It is. It pretty much is. Yeah. But I'll still listen to the whole album. But I like the it's a good psychedelic rock song, man. To me, like that's kind of what it is. Definitely one of my favorites on the album. But it's got good transitions and everything too.
Oh, it does. Yeah. But it's funny because you mentioned that one, but for me, one of the highlights, and I don't know why, but it's Why Won't They Talk to Me?
Oh yeah.
I really, for some reason, there's just, I like his vocal line in it, the way he kind of stretches it out. And I really like the I don't need them and they don't need me. I don't know. There's something about that where like I feel like most people can probably relate to that in some degree.
Absolutely. Well, one thing that's cool is, he experimented a lot with sounds and everything. And this song really has that, like a lot of those kind of synth effects. It reminds me of like almost like a 60s, like kind of like 50s or 60s, like sci-fi cheesy TV show or movie. Yeah. Like if there's like a fight scene or a battle, like that's the sound they would be using to like shoot their laser guns or whatever.
Yeah. I can
but
see that.
Definitely, man. Yeah, Why Won't They Talk to Me?
It's funny because that was probably one of the ones like when I first listened to the album, and I mean not like we always do our research and dive into the album pretty heavy before we record these, but I mean, just me listening to it as a fan of the band to begin with, I would imagine at that time that was one that I probably would have just kind of not brushed over, but it probably would have felt more like filler to me at that time, but now as I listen to it, that is like one of the highlights of the album. I love that song.
Yeah. And this was actually that song that you were talking about with the acoustic that comes in about 2/3 of the way through.
Okay.
Everything kind of drops out, and you hear the and it's not like some amazing acoustic part.
No, but it's nice because it's a very big departure in sound from everything that's happened up to that point. And it's funny. I think with this album, like I know the songs, but a lot of times when I listen to it, like if I'm running or something, I'm not looking at the song names, and it just flows together so nice and seamlessly that sometimes I like kind of lose track of what song I'm in, unless I really know, like, okay, so we'll go to the next one. It feels like we only go backwards. I mean, that's really obvious because the title of the song is the first
transition,
lyric,
it's
and
really
the
good.
transition's good, and
Yeah.
you get that drum kind of intro, you know.
Yeah. I love the way it starts. It has that just the groove, the way it kind of ding ding ding.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's back and forth. Like it's just really, really cool. It's definitely one of my favorite songs. And I think kind of like you were saying about why won't they talk to me? Like feels like sometimes it just feels like in life you're just spinning your wheels, man. Like no matter what you do, you're just going backwards.
But there's something I thought of for an album like so kind of psychedelic, really, and trippy. And far be it for me to give advice to someone who's sold X amount of records, but like I thought to myself, if I was making this song, dude, you would have had to use reverse drums.
Oh, okay.
Even if just at some point in like a breakdown, because I don't know what it is. I love the sound of reverse drums. I mean, it's so weird, but you still feel the beat. But the attack and everything is weird, but it's like a word painting thing. But again, far be it for me, because he's obviously very successful.
He figured something out.
he definitely did. But I just thought that would have been a cool thing. Maybe it's too literal, but I don't know.
Dude, if we ever have Kevin Parker on the show or you meet him, that's a really good icebreaker, I think. We'll record another version together with reverse drums. Be like, oh no, you should just do it, and then when he comes on the show, we'll play it for him and be like, okay, so yours is good, but I just really think this one is better.
Yeah,
I hope you don't mind. I took a little liberty here.
And I would think at that point he'd be like, all right, well, you're a moron, this has been a waste of my time.
Yeah. See you guys. You ain't scratching my tracks.
I mean, reverse drums.
All right, moving on. Let's keep on lying. Again, this song is really psychedelic, and it fades in again, which is kind of, I always find it funny for some, but the way this one fades in, it fades in a way where you're almost like, it feels like the song had been going.
Yeah.
It started for a little bit, and you kind of caught it in the middle. So I just find that interesting to do.
But it's kind of cool though too, because normally when you think of a fade in, you think of like I always think of it like a movie. It's like you start with a completely blank black screen, and it fades into something. But it's kind of cool, like when you already have this huge picture already there, instead of just like, you know what I mean? And it just kind of I thought that was just like an interesting way to do it, because I'm like, I wonder, like, I don't know, like it fades in. It could be the middle. It could be. I mean, what if it was like a 15-minute song and we just got like the last 5? You know? And he was like, maybe I'll just cut it down a little bit.
Just a little bit. A little bit. Want it to fit on the CD. I think as far as like what the song is about, I kind of took it to be about someone like being who they're not, and maybe he felt he was like that kind of around where he had to be sort of someone else, or he was pretending, because one of the lines he says, like, should my cover ever blow, like, oh geez, are they gonna kind of figure me out? Are they gonna find me out that I'm not, maybe who I'm presenting myself to be and whatnot? So
but that's interesting, because one of the lines is just keep on lying to you. So I took that, I guess, as a listener, as being directed at a specific person, probably a love interest or a woman. So we're not going to jump ahead that far, like overall, but then not too after one song, then he comes back and he says, she just won't believe me. And I'm like, well, dude, the song like one before this was like, I just keep on lying. So like, no shit, she's not going to believe you. I mean,
no, sorry, dude. Sorry, Kev.
That never ends well.
It doesn't. Anyways. Well,
but Elephant.
So Elephant. So this is like the main single that probably most people out there really, really know. And I mean, there's a couple things with this song. One, I love it. I think it's awesome. I love the way it moves, it grooves, it hits. Like it's badass. It's a good song. But this is actually like one of the oldest songs that they had. and they were playing it during sound check at one of their shows. And they were just like, man, we should put this on the album. And so they put it on the album because to me, I listen to this song and pretty much every other song on the album. I feel like it doesn't really fit.
Yeah, I know. And that's why, of course, like when I first picked this album up, this was the one I gravitated toward because it was more like Inner Speaker. But with that in mind, I will say when they do like the solo section, instead of being this big driving nasty guitar solo, it's on like a synth.
It fits.
It's on a synth. And dude, the filter sweep on this one where they just cut everything out of it and then like open it back up and that's
back up, dude.
Oh, that's killer.
That's killer, man. It is. Well, one of my favorite lines though is he pulled the mirrors off his Cadillac because he doesn't like it looking like he looks back. It's so hard to say that.
I know.
It's such a cool
I like
line.
that line too, but that line actually reminds me of The Boys of Summer by Don Henley.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I saw a Deadhead sticker on a Cadillac and I said, "Don't look back. You can never look back."
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's a great song. Somehow we got to talk about that song in the podcast because I mean that's one that I could just listen to over and over. A really good song, but something about the bit about the Cadillac and not looking back to me, like just my head goes right back to Don Henley. I don't know why.
Totally.
Well, I do know why because the two fucking obvious things we just said, but
yeah, those reasons.
Yeah. All he does is he doesn't mention the Deadhead sticker, but aside from that, it's a pretty much.
I mean, you got everything covered.
Yeah, it's like one for one.
Right. Well, so then now we get to sort of an interesting part because the iTunes version of Lonerism that I have has the song Led Zeppelin coming after Elephant. Now that apparently was not. The album doesn't have this song in it, and it was like a B-side. I think it's on a special edition. But my version that I've always had and listened to, this song Led Zeppelin follows Elephant. So
we'll see, and
I think that's
actually really cool because I had read that, I guess, in reading about the album, but I hadn't listened to it because I get all my digital delivery of music via Amazon. Therefore, I've never heard that because that's an iTunes deal, right? So I had to go to YouTube to listen to it, and I thought it was awesome. I mean, I like that I think it actually would have been great on the album because it would have kind of like, just kind of put more rock into it. And even if it wasn't in that specific spot but somebody's comment on the YouTube video really cracked me up. And if you're listening, please subscribe because, dude, props to you for saying this. But they said, this sounds like an alternate universe where it's a Led Zeppelin song and John Lennon's the singer. Because I was like, dude, that's actually really funny. It's good.
It is. Yeah, no, it's really good. It's funny. It's funny that you actually say that because I remember playing this song for a friend of mine years ago when I was kind of getting into him. And she was like, "Is this John Lennon?" And I was just like, "Wow,
Christ!"
So weird.
I thought that
musically nothing, but from a vocal standpoint.
Oh yeah, like, dude! When I first heard Inner Speaker, I was like, "Holy shit! Does this guy sound like John Lennon?" And then especially so if that's your first exposure to him, or that early EP with like Half Full Glass of Wine, which is like the chef's kiss, but. You listen to it and it sounds like it could have been recorded in the mid to late 60s. And he does kind of sound like John Lennon. And it's like, wow, it's like if the Beatles had like made an album in the vein of Helter Skelter. So you know what I mean? Just like the heavier sound. But
when I first started listening to Tame Impala, I kind of couldn't pinpoint like what era. I was like, when is this? Is this new? Is this old? Like, how long have they been around? Like, I kind of didn't really know. I mean, I know some of the effects and things they do probably would have been hard to do back then, but at first to me, it didn't, the sound didn't fit like a certain era to me when I first heard
man, I heard it and I knew they were modern, like I knew they were from this time period. but I didn't expect what I heard, and I certainly didn't expect like that vocal kind of I don't want to say homage. I mean, that's just the way he sings, but I didn't expect the similarity to the sound of like a John Lennon's voice.
Yeah.
But when I heard it, I was like, my God, you could play this for someone and convince them it was recorded by a band in 1967. Like the first album, album.
Yeah, definitely. Well, moving on quick here, Graham.
Yeah.
Going, she just won't believe me. We touched on it just a little bit, but this song is it's a trippy little song. It's under a minute. It's just kind of like,
it's more just more or less a transition.
Yeah. But it's
interesting because it comes in kind of abrupt. It comes in kind of abrupt, but
it definitely does. And then when the song ends, it just like gets cut with like a meat cleaver. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, as soon as it was there, it's gone. So
yeah, I mean, it's basically, I think, just guitar and vocals, and then for the most part, and then like synth comes in at the end. I mean, or there's like a really heavy.
There's some heavy synth throughout it, but it is pretty thick. I mean,
thick as a
so
brick.
Now the song with notably the longest. Nothing that has happened so far has been anything we could control. I do like that title.
Definitely. Yeah. I think it's the longest song on the album too.
Yeah.
I think it's over 6 minutes. 6 minutes it's at. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as I read his kind of speaking about the album, I don't know exactly in what context he said it, but at one point he references making like some, what does he say? We just let ourselves go doing these 6-minute prog pop pieces. And that kind of, to me, is what this is.
That's kind of what I was going to say. I mean, especially the second half of the song. I mean, they really get into it, but then it pretty much, goes all instrumental towards the end. And there's a really cool effect in the middle of it, where to me, it sounds like almost like an analog tape, machine where the tape kind of gets either you've used this effect before. Yeah. It gets warped a little bit, and then it kind of like fixes itself, and then and then I just feel like it just kind of like everything spills out again, and it gets even crazier. Like in a very different way. It kind of reminds me of how Beck does at a lot of the end of his songs, where shit just gets kind of crazy.
Oh, dude,
and that's a very Beck way. I feel like this is the same thing, but a very Tame Impala way.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I mean, I know just between us and talking about music, like we use the term a Beck ending. I mean, I mean, like take for example Club Explicit by Moore. I mean, that has a very Beck ending.
Exactly. Very Beck ending. Yeah. So then the last song on the album is Sun's Coming Up. And this song, I feel like Elephant maybe doesn't fit as much with this album. I think this is another song that I don't know if it fully fits with the album. It's very stripped down,
basic,
and slow.
And him playing piano.
Kind of muddy.
But I think if there was a place to put it, this is the place to put it, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I mean...
No, I can't disagree with that.
Shit, but yeah,
it does. It means something to me. So
yeah, likewise, dude.
Yeah. But I like the last. He sings it a little lazily and stuff.
Yeah, he does.
It reminds me of actually Ringo a little bit. I don't know why. I was like,
but I like the last words: 7 a.m. midnight in Dover. Sun's coming up. I guess it's over, and it
pretty much,
and then. The album is over after that.
Yeah. Well, and at the end, it's pretty slow in the beginning, but then it kind of transitions into there's like a guitar part, but it also sounds like there's like somebody's walking. It sounds like somebody butt dialed you, and they're like walking.
No. They talk about that a lot, because he had a little dictaphone, like a little. Like, I don't want to say field recorder, but apparently there's a lot of instances in the album, in several other songs too, where he just records like ambient things. And I think this one was like some street that his hotel was overlooking this weird curved street that he said had a really weird echoey sound to it. And I believe that's what he put there, which I love that. I think using ambient sounds from life in music is really cool. And when other people do it, I kind of instantly gravitate toward it because I'm like, well, man, there's somebody else who thinks this is cool. Because it makes it's a soundscape, you know. It's more than the feeling of the music. It's like you're being somewhere. You know what I mean?
Definitely. It is cool when people can do that, and it kind of it fits in with a certain place, and they do it. And I thought it was in the song previously, but I could be wrong. I think it is in, Nothing That Has Happened to Me So Far Is Anything We Could Control, where it sounds like he's kind of like at a party and you hear all these people talking.
Yeah, they talk about that too, and he put it through delay.
Yeah.
There's another one too, and I can't remember the song or the exact phrase, but it sounds like he's talking with someone. And they're like, they're saying something to the effect of, well, you should just kind of go back, like they're just telling him to do something, and it's a woman's voice. I can't remember the song or the exact phrase, but it fits really well with the song.
Yes, I remember I remember that part, and I don't know the song or the phrase either, but I do remember it. So if anybody remembers that and wants to drop us a little comment, do that down below. On.
We can't remember every single second of it. So sometimes really we all need a little help, man.
A little help from our friends.
Yeah.
A little help from our subscribers. All right. A little help from the super fans. Okay, buddy. Who's on the tee?
I feel like I scratched for Harvest, so I kind of feel like you're on the tee. So don't put the ball too low. I mean, get it at a nice height for your driver, and scratch away.
I got it. Yeah. So for me, actually, I think I don't want to pick the low hanging fruit. For me, it would be, I think, easy for me to go with "She Just Won't Believe Me" just because it's a minute song, and I'm like, I just don't really need it. I would actually, but the more I thought about it and listening to the album, I'm actually fine with keeping that because it is just a minute. So it's not like, if that song, so if that song had gone on for like 4 or 5 minutes, I'd probably be like, yeah, I'm good.
Fair point.
But the main one I would scratch is actually "She's Coming Up." That's, I just feel like it doesn't fit the album. It's slow. I get that if you're going to put that type of song on this album, that's the perfect place to put it. But I would be perfectly happy ending the album with, the previous song, "Nothing That Happened So Far Has Been Anything We Could Control." I just want to see how many times I can say that title in this episode. So I would go with "Sun's Coming Up" personally. How about yourself, Graham? Are we going to overtime? Dude,
I thought we were going to go into double overtime on this one, but you saved us. So it's not another... It's not an Islanders Capitals scenario here. I would have to scratch "She Just Won't Believe Me" because I think that the lyrics are, number one, very contradictory to keep on lying, and it's like a no shit thing. And then musically, like, I would be totally fine if Elephant went right into "Nothing That Has Happened So Far Has Been Anything We Can Control." Exactly. / set the controls for the Heart of the Sun.
The sun. Exactly. So long. Okay, cool, man. Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree. I thought we might go into the OT zone as well.
I thought we were going to double overtime for sure, because I thought in my head, I was like, we would both say "She Just Won't Believe Me," and then we'd be like, all right, well, then your secondary one is "Sun's Coming Up."
Okay.
And
all right.
I didn't know if we were ready to go into a third overtime.
Hypothetically, like, this is not official. All right. This is not official, but hypothetically, if we had to go to double OT, what would you have gone with?
Probably "Keep on Lying."
Okay.
None of these are bad songs or anything like that. So just to clear it up for some of the viewers, if you've stuck with us this long, we review these albums because we love them.
Yes. So actually, Keep on Lying is the one with the party sound. So I thought it was Nothing that has ever happened so far because they think we could control. But that's the one with the party sound. I just noticed that in my notes.
So what's your unofficial? Yeah,
dude, this one's gonna probably tick you off too. But I actually kind of went with Be Above It.
No, I would have actually. I actually had my mouth in the shape of an F to say "fuck you" if you said elephant, but no, I can understand. Gotta be above it.
Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, a lot of times I start the album with Music to Walk Home By. And that doesn't mean I don't like the other songs. It's just that, like, I love those that.
No, I know. You just get a run of them,
so
right?
So much.
Yeah, you just get a run of them.
Yeah. I, to me, you know how you were just saying you can kind of get lost in the album and that's where it flows. To me, that's where the flow starts.
Well, I get it, but that's sometimes you get lost in it and you kind of get into your thing, and other times it's kind of like, Wayne, can we put the Fender back? And you just start with Be Above It.
Exactly. Not today, my good man.
You thought the episode was
saucy.
You thought the episode was going to go without it. I know you did. But
Do you accept cash? Cha-ching.
So,
all right.
With that, I do accept cash. We accept cash. We don't have a Patreon page. Maybe someday we should do that. But
we should start an OnlyFans page. Do you know what that is? I'll tell you. All right.
What?
An OnlyFans page?
No. I don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you offline.
Okay.
Anyways, so yes,
I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. So, anyways, everyone, thank you for listening. Please please subscribe. I should have told you to do that at the beginning of the episode because I'm not sure how many of you made it this far. But if you have made it this far and you haven't liked, subscribed, or commented, please do so. If you can't watch us and see our smiling faces,
tell us what you would scratch.
Yeah, tell us what you would scratch.
We want to know.
Tell us we're full of shit. We don't care. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't make the album. It's just, and keep in mind, we do albums because we love them. This isn't an attack on anyone here.
No, it's not. It's like picking the best of the worst. It doesn't mean that they're not still great.
Yeah, like I don't even want to go into Depeche Mode, but okay. So
yeah, sorry. All right, everyone, take care.
Sorry.
We'll see you next week with another amazing album.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're waffling. Take care, everyone. Peace.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... MORE. And the Tims. TIMNZ. Copyright 2020. The Dude and Grim Show.